Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss along with Pauly Howard. We're live downtown Vegas. Circa Resort and Casino is your spot. What a day in the sports world / sports betting world, and what a week. Doesn't get much better than this time of year. On the program today, Nick Whalen, his best look at player props on tonight's card. Mike, of course, he has covered college basketball for 30-plus years. He's calling it quits after tonight, retiring. He's going to join us live from Indianapolis for the national title game. Dallin Cuff as well. Tim Murray on the program. We'll spend plenty of time on today's Major League Baseball card, how the Rookie of the Year number of the NBA is completely silly and out of control at this point, and how you should be able to capitalize on that, and a lot on the national title game, Pauly. And currently, looking at the screen, Michigan favored between 6.5 and 7. I see more 6.5s out there than 7s, and the total now creeping up to about 146.5. We'll run down all these numbers. Just like quick takeaway from the two games on Saturday is, how do you bet against Dan Hurley on one note? The other one is, my God, Michigan's an absolute freight train. And for them to do that to Arizona, that is absolutely scary. And now they're going to have to play their first true dud of the entire tournament if UConn has a chance to win this thing.
Yep, that's the conundrum here. You're right. Is Michigan just going to blow everybody out and score 90 points in every game and end the drought for the Big Ten? Or is it you just can't go against Hurley? Well, no, maybe they win by 6 or fewer. Maybe that happens, and Hurley gets the money again with this 18-1 run. But it's considering you had guys injured, and Lindenborg got hurt early, and then the foul trouble, and it's still not a problem, and they run out Arizona. I still think Duke has got to be sick to their stomach. They beat Michigan and had UConn down 19, and they're not here. But I think Max Hoffmeyer had some good tweets about this has got to be an in-play wager, because I don't know who's going to dictate or control tempo.
Correct.
And that could determine the outcome, right? Because if it's going to be up and down, then that favors Michigan, and again, maybe they score 90 and win going away. But it begs the question, can you do this 6 games in a row? UConn did in their run where they were unstoppable when they had the repeat. And maybe that's just Michigan's just too good. Yeah. But if it was anybody but Hurley, I would say Michigan's going to rock and roll again.
Yeah, this Michigan team is now reminding me of the UConn team from 2 years ago, where you're just like, okay, they can't keep doing this. Oh, they did. And it kept getting uglier for their opponents, and they just blew everybody out of the water for 2 consecutive years. And that team was completely loaded to the gills, and they have had really good guys now turn out to be pros as well, like a ton of dudes. And Michigan is kind of reminding me of them. But look, I listened to Will Hill's podcast today. Does a lot of shows here on VSiN. The podcast is called Should Have Bet More as well. I liked his analogy, and it is comparing Dan Hurley and UConn to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, where it might sound simple, where it's like, I can't bet against this guy. And, well, eventually it ran out of time for Mahomes against the Eagles a couple years ago. But for so many games over the course of so many years, that kept being a thing. And sometimes you don't have to be any deeper than that analysis. And that could go the same way tonight for Hurley. He's like, I don't want to bet against this guy because he's too good at covering numbers now since 2023 in the tournament, 18-1 against the spread. And I got more numbers than that. And sometimes, their time will run out. But it's also maybe just that simple. Like, the coaching staff is clearly the best in the entire country. Now, Dusty Fox, Dusty May, obviously very good on top of this, and he has proven himself now with 2 Final Fours and a national title appearance in the last 4 years, and he's done a wonderful job here at Michigan. But it's Hurley we're talking about here, and the job that he has done now in the last 4 years is absolutely impeccable.
Well, I'm shocked that they're here, though. I mean, I couldn't get there with them making a deep run because of the Marquette performance right before the tournament.
I don't disagree.
And then for them, Hurley, he doesn't get blown out, and it happened 3 times in a span of a month. What happened? Over a month. To get buried twice by St. John's in the Marquette loss was bizarre. So that's strange. And I know this. He's going to bring up the point spread because he did it Saturday. And he said to his team and also the media that he's like, wait a second. We played these guys in November and beat them by 13, but we're underdogs? And he was outraged by that. So, he's, certainly Michigan's the bee's knees here, but he's certainly going to talk about, hey, we're not getting any respect. Look at this 7-point dog. Do you think they're going to bet this like a Super Bowl?
Where
it's UConn money line or you lay it with Michigan?
Probably.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it seems to me. The money line's been ping-ponging back and forth at every book for the last day or so anyway. Well, you referenced this. Here you go. Back to the game on Saturday, and Dan Hurley on being the underdog actually matters in this game tonight.
Yeah, in this game, not at all, because you just when you get down to winner take all at this point, there's just that is something that you probably doesn't even register. It's just like preparation, game plan, make sure the guy you're getting is healthy and as all the recovery, and just really, you don't have to be the best team. You don't have to have the best season to win this tournament. These are all one game 7, single game elimination. There's been plenty of times in the history of this tournament where the best team hasn't won it. You just got to be better for one night. And obviously, for us, we need to play the game a certain type of way. We obviously can't get into a certain type of game with Michigan. They're, incredibly dominant team, incredibly well coached, talent up and down the roster, physically imposing, all those things. So, the good thing for us, it's not a 7-game series. Just got to play one game on Monday night.
Got to see spot on with all of that. Mm-hmm. So every game or every tournament is like a snowflake, right? It can take on a life of its own. I will ask you, Pauly, how does this whole bracket play out if Florida doesn't lose like they did against Iowa, or if St. John's doesn't give up a 10-point lead against Duke?
Yes.
This whole thing could be completely different. UConn might not be here.
Well, take it by his comments. I got to take the air out of the ball and slow it down.
No question.
And try to keep this in the 60s or 70s. Humans with his article today, I think he's right. You have to go read over 14.5 points that he's got that every game in the tournament but one. But I think it starts with him, and we'll see if Mara can slow him down. So that's one thing. But going back to Saturday, he forgot the reporter's question. He was so bothered by the fact that they were underdogs. And the other thing is can the Big Ten finally do it here? 0-8 in title games since 2000. If they can end the drought. And I know you caught some heat on social media. I totally agree with you. But the Fab Five love affair, how about you talk about the team that actually won it? It won the title, in '89, which that doesn't get discussed much. But they've had their opportunities.
Of course, he wrote about that, and we're going to talk to him about that coming up in a couple hours.
Yeah, it was well done, yes. Yep. And this 8 times. 8 times the conference has been here. They haven't been able to get it done since 2000. So we'll see if they can exercise the demons. And the last time Michigan won the title, Gorbachev was in the news. Think about that.
I think we were in mid-school. Yeah, not even in high school at that point.
Yes.
And I'll give you this too, Pauly. I mean, again, sometimes it comes down to a couple of very simple things. I need to know how UConn's going to come out of the gate shooting the basketball. Are they going to be 1 of 18 like they were against Duke? Or are they going to come out shooting the ball like they did against Illinois, where they were much hotter in that game? And so, if it's in between, well, then flip a coin. But if they come out dead cold and can't hit anything, Michigan's going to probably blow their doors off. But if they're warm from outside, and, Michigan is so good, again, defending at the rim that it's going to be probably Reed and not much else down low, I think that UConn's going to take a ton of three-point attempts tonight. And you could probably bet on a couple of those guys because everybody is 2.5 over plus money.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be Caravan and Mullins and probably other players on this team shooting 7, 8, 9, 10 threes. I mean, hell, that happened against Illinois, where Mullins and Caravan took a lot of threes. If that happens again tonight, I'll bet on them to go over 2.5.
Caravan and Mullins to hit 6. 6 threes each is 20-1. At Caesars. What's Ball going to give me? I mean, he's walking around with a boot, but then he says he's going to play.
Yeah, so officially when the injury report came out yesterday, Yaxel and Ball, neither guy were listed. So they're both going to play. I would assume that means they're going to be okay, but not 100%.
Well, come on, guy's walking in a boot.
Yeah.
It's this guy.
Well, how about Yaxel?
It's got to be, yeah.
He played 11 minutes or 14 minutes. I think he scored 11 points. I get my numbers mixed up there.
Well, he came right out, though, and said, there's no way I'm missing the game.
For sure. But
he actually came back in, though. That's what's encouraging.
That's another thing, too, where can we really look at now, does anything else matter at this point, like trying to compare similar opponents or anything like that? Arizona just down against Purdue to go to the Final Four, beat them by 15. Purdue beat Michigan in the Big Ten title game. And look at what Michigan just did to Arizona. I don't think these similar opponents mean anything at this point.
No. I'm more focused on what they did in the non-conference and how they blasted everybody. how good Michigan was.
Actually, it's a good point, right? Because it's been a tale of a couple of seasons here because they were not great inside the conference.
Yep.
The preseason and now the tournament, they were absolutely sensational. You could say the same thing about UConn, though.
It's not sustainable. You're not going to beat everyone by 30 points. Plus they see you and know you. So you're not going to beat Gonzaga and Auburn and blow everybody out once conference play started. And they had their issues and then but fixed it. And now here they are blowing everybody out. So it'd be incredible if they win again, cover, and score 90 again. I mean, who's going to do that again? Win all 6 games and score 90-plus points?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of new stuff. I mean, who's ever going to go 2 years in a row covering every game like UConn did? And now for Michigan to pull this off is like, I mean, if Michigan wins tonight in a blowaway, we got to think about this team being one of the best in recent years.
They have largest lead, 15.5 here. I got to go under. But the spurtability here with Michigan. Caesars has first basket over under 34.5 seconds.
34.5. It was 21.5 for the tournament at BetMGM.
Yeah.
Follow the Money is brought to you by ProfitX. Sign up today, make your first purchase, and earn a bonus up to $100 in bonus cash. Download the ProfitX app and use the code VSiNMM. Did you take him 7.5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of Hurley. Had to do it. The Hurley factor.
They didn't
even play well against Illinois. They fell asleep. I mean, they're up 14, and then Illinois cuts it to 3.
I will point out, how many balls did Illinois have that were like halfway down in that game? Bouncing around, going down, spinning out. The last 4 years, with less than 2 days rest in the tournament, 9-0 ATS, 8-1 straight up, covering by almost 11 points per game. That's Dan Hurley.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. With VSiN Pro, you get access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
More basketball here. Absolutely bonkers movement with the Rookie of the Year numbers over the weekend. Again, on Friday, when the straw poll dropped, Con Kneppel got 80 out of 100 first-place votes. Not everybody participating in that straw poll has a vote. As a reminder, some of them do, some don't. But it's been a very good indicator of what's going to happen in these awards markets, specifically the MVP, for several years. And in that one, SGA got 88 first-place votes, so he turned into the same thing, like a minus 2,000 favorite. And then Cooper Flagg goes nuts. And the Mavs continue to play him now in these last couple of games in meaningless, by the way, April games against teams that are without a ton of players, and he's scoring 50-plus and 40-plus. And because of 2 games in April, it completely flipped, and now Flagg's favored again?
To me, you can't run a sports book like this. It reminds me of the May Stafford thing, where in the last couple weeks you could have grabbed both guys at 3-1 to win the MVP.
Well, it's a mistake by books, I think, for us to take advantage of it.
Yes, you cannot, and we'll probably never see this again. To go from you wake up, you go to bed Thursday night, he's minus 250. Mm-hmm. After the straw poll comes out, he goes to 2,500 at Caesars. Edlow retweeted, it was 1,800 at DraftKings. He's on the show tomorrow. Then Cooper goes for 51, and then he drops to 350. And then he lights up the Lakers, so 96 points in 2 games. But I thought Brian Windhorst, who has a vote, was excellent today on his podcast, the Hoop Collective, saying, what are these sports books doing? Like, and what do they think of media members and voters that were just going to be prisoner of the moment and go crazy after 2 games when you play 80 of them? And to think, oh, my God, no, I got to change my... So the question is, out of the 80 people who said Knippel, how many were flippable? Mm-hmm. How many people were maybe if he closes strong or on the fence? And is this 96-point barrage the last 2 games enough to change your mind or flip it? I certainly say no, but to go from 2,500 to now the underdog in 3 days, I think is absolute lunacy.
Yeah,
and now if Flake, I rest assured he's going to shoot a lot.
Oh, just bet his player props every game.
Absolutely,
yeah.
It's going to be great tomorrow when they play the Clippers and they close the season Sunday with the Bulls at home. He's going to shoot and fire away. But if he closes, averaging 40 a game in the final week, it's we can have another discussion about it. But I just don't think you can go from minus 2,500 to plus money based on 2 games.
Sure, and now books are just copying each other because they don't want to be late to move, and then all of a sudden, here comes a big bet from a player who we let get down big bets on. Kneppel at a huge number, whatever that case might be. So here's an example of to put it into probabilities, right? I'll go with 2,000. When Kahn was minus 2,000 to win the award, that translates to 95.2%. You're telling me that because of 2 Cooper Flagg games again in the final week of the season where he scored 96 points, that made Kahn Kneppel go from 95.2% to below 40% to win? Based on the odds that you can get? Now, again, here's the approach that I'm going to take, and I already have Kneppel at plus 450, and I added him on that parlay with SGA on Friday. I'm going to bet more Kneppel at plus money now, and I'm going to bet Cooper Flagg props in every game for the rest of the year that he's in the lineup. And I started doing that yesterday.
Yeah.
When, my God, the unfortunate news now for the Lakers, Luka, Reeves, obviously. But I did a same game parlay on LeBron to score 30 and Flagg to score 30 that paid plus 625. That was a winner. LeBron got 30 points late by hitting a free throw, needed that. I never thought of going Flagg 35 or 40 plus in that game yesterday. Probably would have been 12, 15 to 1. But I'm going to do that somehow, some way with Flagg in every game going forward. Mm-hmm. They're clearly going to play him 40 minutes the way it appears, and he's going to take...
Well, that's the other thing. They're getting blown out Friday. He comes out of the game. Kid gets tossed. Vogel puts him back in the game.
Back in the game.
So we're chasing stats and numbers now again. But it was the same thing with Stafford and May, where Stafford didn't play well on that Monday night game, and May went to $9, and Stafford won the award. Because you also have to look at who's coming up on the schedule and how you're going to play. And the overreaction when May lit up the Jets, who were awful. Like, who cares? It was, so I don't think the media is going to be prisoner of the moment and that suddenly it was a blowout and it's going to change. It's like what Zach Cohen tweeted. The guy for the Bucks had 33, 10, and 10. Are we going to overreact to that?
Yeah, no, that's what he said. He's like, are we really going to put that much stock in the April games? Ryan Rupert went for 33, 10, and 10, the guy you're talking about. So let's go back to last week again, because we had multiple guests on the show. One was Brian Geltzeiler, NBA, SiriusXM NBA Radio, has a vote, and he said, no, this is absolutely Kahn Kneppel's award. Zach Lowe recently said it on his podcast. He doesn't have a vote. He gave it up. But he said, same thing, it's absolutely Kahn Kneppel. And then last week, we also brought on Henry Abbott from True Hoop, and we asked him his thoughts on the Rookie of the Year.
It's not even close to me. I did a little research because I was going to be on this show, and if you look into any advanced stats, right, anything that involves offense and defense, Kahn Kneppel's been way better. Ooh. I don't even think Cooper's been like top 3. So, and the Mavericks have been so bad. It's no disrespect to Cooper Flagg, who's going to be a marvelous player, but in earned wins, just to cite one stat from Dunks and Threes, very respected website. Kahn is at 9.6 earned wins on the season. Cooper's at 3.9, which trails even VJ Edgecombe. So, I think he's good, but I don't think he's Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. All right. So not even close from Henry Abbott. Odds were not even close. And now it's going to, again, take advantage of it. Got to take some Kneppel here at plus money to win this award. Mm-hmm. I don't think that they're going to, if he was not even close per several people last week, and a lot of those people have votes again, you're telling me that Flagg is suddenly the leader in the clubhouse to win the award? I don't buy it. I don't. So there you go.
Well, he's had a strange season. He got off to a slow start. He was struggling. Kevin O'Connor had the asinine comment that he'd be the 6th pick in the draft coming up this year. Then he dominates and puts up big numbers, and then he gets hurt and comes back and doesn't do much. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to have a tiebreaker, or I still think games played, and also the fact that Charlotte is going to be in the play-in and maybe the playoffs, and the Mavs have had an awful season and ended a 14-game home losing streak with the win last night. I think it also winning games, I think, matters too.
Yeah.
That you're playing in these games that are just, it's grab ass what's going on out there. Mm-hmm. Where you're not playing defense and you're getting blown out by 30 every night.
As for tonight, let me run this down. Knicks play at the Hawks. The Hawks are 16-4 against the spread their last 20 games.
Yes.
The Knicks covered against the Bulls over the weekend. Before that, they failed to cover in 5 straight. They were 3-10 ATS the previous 13. Hawks, one of the hottest teams in basketball. You can throw the schedule at me. They have a nice win over Boston, though. Shouldn't they be higher than 1.5?
Yeah, especially all the way the Knicks are playing against good teams. I don't know about the motivation here for the Knicks. I think the Knicks blew this, that they should have lost to get the 4 seed and draw Detroit in the second round. But 18-2 straight up, 16-4 ATS, as you mentioned, and Alexander Walker's been great and a big favorite to win Most Improved. His point prop is 19.5. He's gone over that 6 of the last 7. I'm with you on the Hawks, and I'll tie it into the other game. And the Cavs are sitting a bunch of people, but they're playing Memphis, they're playing guys on 10-day contracts. It's a farce. The Cavs can pick their opponent here. The Cavs are the 4 seed. They'll win tonight. That means they'll be the 4, and then they can dictate their opponent. They play back-to-back games against the red-hot Hawks. They lose both. That ensures they will play Atlanta in the 4 or 5, and that keeps Philly away from them, and that keeps Philly in the 6-7 range. Because Philly can't then gain ground because they're trying to chase down Atlanta, but Atlanta would get those 2 wins over the Cavs, so the Cavs would play Atlanta in the 4 or 5. And I think they will sit people like they are doing tonight, and will do it in the next 2 days, 2 games rather, to ensure that's the 4 or 5 matchup that they'll pick their opponent and get their seed and what they want to do.
Well, let me point this out about tonight's game. Now, it was 15.5 earlier today. Cleveland is now sitting as a 13.5 point favorite across the screen. I agree with the move. As double-digit favorites, now they're 19-4 straight up, so they win those games. They're the exact opposite against the spread. They're 4-19 against the spread as a double-digit favorite, by far and away the worst in the NBA, and they have lost 6 straight games as double-digit chalk against the spread. I know that this Memphis unit right now is absolutely terrible, but nobody is as bad as Cleveland in these spots, laying this many points.
To me, it's got to be Jared Allen. I think Jared Allen's got to go over his points prop and get at least 16 tonight with Harden out and Mitchell out as well. And the other thing, what has happened since they acquired Harden? The defense has been lousy, and that's cause for concern in the playoffs. That the offense has had some good moments. Mitchell struggled, but the defense has really slipped and taken a big step back since they acquired Harden.
The Lakers still hold the 3-seed tiebreaker over the Nuggets. They have the edge over the Rockets. It's 1 game plus the tiebreaker. Lakers now have secured a better record than Minnesota when the Wolves lost yesterday. Denver and the Lakers are each 50-28. Rockets 49-29. The Lakers have the Thunder at the Warriors, Suns, and the Jazz. Yeah. They might win only 1 more game.
Looks like they're the 5 seed. They'll play the Rockets, and the Rockets will have home court.
The way it looks,
and Denver has got to get the 3. This is huge for how the Nuggets finish. You get the 3 seed, it will be Minnesota, but then you avoid OKC until the conference finals. And what a matchup that would be if we could get Wemby against. That game Saturday was incredible. If you get those 2 guys going at it.
All right, let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Nick Whalen on the program coming up next. He likes the same player to go over his rebounds and assists tonight. So should we sprinkle a little bit on the triple-double?
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We're brought to you by ProfitX. If you're not on ProfitX yet, Masters Week, the perfect time to start. You get a new sign-up bonus of $100 in bonus cash just for getting started. The code is VSiNMM. Make 1 play of $50 or more on any Masters market, win or lose. You get an entry to win a $1,000 golf prize of your choice. You get a round of golf or a club or a gift card to any golf apparel brand. Win or lose on your play, you're still in the running. Download the ProfitX app, code VSiNMM. Make your first purchase, earn that bonus, get in on the action. It's here, Masters Week. ProfitX, download it today, code VSiNMM.
We'll hit some hoops here. Nick Whalen joins the program now. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. His show is called Prop Points with Jeff Erickson, Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern, right here on VSiN. He's with RotoWire. Nick, good afternoon. Thanks for the time as always. I'll begin here. Detroit's playing at Orlando tonight. The Pistons now down to a 1.5 point favorite, but here's the latest injury report for the Pistons. Cunningham, doubtful. Tobias Harris, doubtful. Duncan Robinson is now doubtful. Isaiah Stewart, doubtful. You have LeVert, who's questionable, and some other guys who are either out or lingering in that questionable or doubtful range tonight for the Pistons. What is your play here tonight with the Magic with this news?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, guys, that we had some of this Detroit news pop up and only saw slight movement in the number. Pistons are still favored on the road in Orlando tonight. Now, the Magic won't have Anthony Black. They won't have Franz Wagner, but nonetheless, I mean, this is a huge game for the Orlando Magic. Still a ton to be decided as far as the 6 through 10 in the Eastern Conference. Like, those teams could basically finish in any order. There's still a chance Orlando could climb their way at least to the top zone of the play-in, if not out of the play-in. And yet the market is just not showing a whole lot of faith. Now, part of that is just Detroit has continued to play well without Cade Cunningham, without some of their other pieces. They're hanging in against good teams. I think that's part of the reason JB Bickerstaff is probably going to seal up Coach of the Year. The job that he's done since Cade Cunningham went down. But it's reflective, guys, of who the Magic have been this year. It's like games that line up well for Orlando. Like, this should be a spot where they can go in and win. It feels like they never do. Spots where we write them off. All of a sudden, they'll pull this back in. I've been out on this team for a while in terms of a team that could really make an impact. But one way that I would look to play this game tonight is Paolo Banchero over 7.5 boards. I have to look if that number is up a little bit, but talked about that one on prop points earlier today. Got that just north of even money on DraftKings. I think that's one area, especially with no Jalen Duren, with no Isaiah Stewart, where we could see Paolo Banchero get on the glass. He's had a lot of huge scoring and rebounding games. The assists have kind of come and gone a little bit more for him. For better or for worse, guys, he has to be the engine of this offense. And there's been plenty of Banchero discourse as far as whether he can actually be that level of player going forward. But with the way things have shaped up with Franz Wagner missing so much time, it's kind of the only option for the Magic right now.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're going to play him over 7.5 there, rebounds, assists, maybe you like them as well. Would you look at a triple-double for him tonight?
I would maybe take a cursory glance at a triple-double. He only has 2 on the year. He doesn't have one since, I think it was December 29th was the last time. Now, he's had a couple scares in there, but the assists tend to be the issue. A big assist game for Paolo Banchero is like 7 or 8. He doesn't have a whole lot of those 9 or more. So I think he could get there on points and rebounds. The assists are what I would worry about. Detroit is still such a good defensive team, even without a lot of these guys. Like, they're one of those teams that just has a system. They found guys who kind of fit that, who have that same mentality, even when they're used to playing 15 to 17 minutes. So, even with all these absences on the Detroit side, total in this game is only 222.5. Not sure I trust the Magic shooters around Banchero enough to cash the assist portion of the triple-double.
Do you think we'll see some seeding shenanigans in the final week? And it is tie into Denver here, as Denver's probably going to get the 3 seed. I think they need the 3 seed, so you avoid OKC until the conference finals. They're laying 7.5 tonight against Portland off the big win Saturday.
Yeah, so that's something I think you really need to keep an eye on as we get to later in the week, right? We've been dealing with this for 2 months as far as tanking goes, and all right, how do we handle these teams that aren't trying? But now we'll start entering a zone where teams will start clinching certain seeds or certain ranges. Team X can't fall below the 4 seed or the 5 seed, whatever it may be. So, OKC, for instance, will likely clinch the 1 seed at some point this week. San Antonio will likely be locked into the 2. So you look ahead for a team like Denver. Game 81 and 82 for the Nuggets come against the Thunder and the Spurs. What version of the Thunder, what version of the Spurs are they actually facing? Does it actually behoove Denver to get the 3 seed? In all likelihood, they'll be able to pass the Lakers, what's left of the LA Lakers, for that spot. They're currently both tied right now at 50 and 28. In theory, yes, that dodges OKC. You would set up a matchup with San Antonio on paper in the second round. But, if we're assuming that the Lakers fall to the 4 or the 5, they can't fall any lower than that. Would you rather just set up a matchup with the Lakers in the first round? Are you okay playing Minnesota on paper in round 1? There's so much to be decided over these next couple of games. And I think it's always really interesting to see, teams usually come out and say, we don't care who we'll play who's in front of us. They usually tip their hand over the last few games of the year. But look, in general, I think if you're looking to dodge one of those teams in the West, you still would rather play the San Antonio Spurs. As scary as Victor Wembanyama is, as great as they've been over the last couple of months, we know what OKC is capable of, right? And in the back of your mind, there's still this idea of, like, we really haven't seen a team make this leap. A team that hasn't made the playoffs in 6 years in the Spurs without going through those battles, without coming up short at least once before making that deep run.
Yeah, I think these teams got to do whatever they can to play the Lakers in the first round, right? Because you don't want to take the chance of
I agree
screwing that up, because the Wolves, when healthy, they can still be a problem.
Not healthy, though.
I know that. But then all of a sudden, hey, you don't play the Lakers right away. Oops. And now somehow they escape the first round. And now here comes Luka and Reeves back, and they're able to play in the second round.
I would love for that scenario to unfold because I think it makes the playoffs a lot more interesting. I know both Denver and Houston are playing well of late. Those are two teams that I'm still a little skeptical of. I like Denver a lot more than I do Houston as a playoff foil for OKC or San Antonio. But we were set up for what I thought was going to be a really fun Western Conference playoffs. Like, I was not going to take the Lakers to go beat OKC or even beat San Antonio in the second round, but you can at least see it. Right. Luka playing at this level, LeBron kind of finding a way now to fit in as that 1B. And then obviously Austin Reeves doing what he does. But you take Luka out of the equation. He's over in Europe right now, guys. He's doing the Kobe Bryant experimental treatment on that hamstring. The initial timetable on Reeves is 4 to 6 weeks. We saw what the Lakers look like without those guys yesterday against Dallas. I think you're right. I think if I'm Houston, Minnesota, Denver, whoever it is, like that is a matchup I am more than happy to line up. Give me Rui Hachimura second option in a round one playoff.
Yeah, no kidding.
How about the East scenarios where all these teams play each other in the last week?
Yeah. Yeah, I will say this. The schedule makers did a pretty good job stacking meaningful games. And look, I mean, the Sixers, the Raptors, the Hornets, the Magic, the Heat, all those teams have a ton of maneuverability. I think Miami plays Toronto back-to-back in the middle of the week. So I think there's still a ton to be decided there. To me, what's most interesting with the seeding is New York at the 3, Cleveland at the 4. Knicks are currently 1 game up on Cleveland. Do we see teams trying to dodge the Boston Celtics? Because for as good as Detroit has played, for as much kind of infrastructure as it feels like they've built, everybody's on the same page. I still think I don't want to see that Boston team in round 2. And again, you run into the danger of, okay, do you focus too much on the second round and then you set up a bad first round matchup and you don't even get there? But Boston is still the team that I think we could see some teams lining up to try to dodge. So, do the Knicks position themselves in that 4-5 spot as opposed to the 3? We will see. Cavaliers are already holding some guys out tonight. Now they're playing Memphis. They're not going to lose that game, but those are two teams certainly to monitor in the East.
Yeah. Do you have anything tonight in the national title game? Michigan, by the way, at BetMGM, they're 6.5, but UConn is -115 with the points. So they're almost trending to go to 6 the way it looks right now. Anything here for you, Nick?
I'm going to hold my nose and take the points with the UConn guys. This is a situation where I think you still have a coaching advantage for as great as Dusty May has been at Michigan. There's just something about the way Dan Hurley has built this program. You look at the history of UConn. When they make it this far, they've won every single time. Now there are trends on the other side, right? When you have a favorite of this magnitude, those teams have had a ton of success. I think favorites of more than 3 points are 12-4 ATS since 2000 in the national championship game. But something tells me UConn is going to find a way to muck this game up a little bit. The Lendenborg thing, I think is a really interesting wrinkle. He's going to play. He's not on the injury report. There's no way he's going to be 100%. Anybody who's ever had an ankle injury knows, the day after that is when you really start to feel that. So I think if UConn could just slow this game down a little bit, if they can maintain some of the shooting that we saw early against Illinois, I don't know if they win this game, but I think they can make it a competitive game with less than 5 minutes left.
All right, Nick. Great analysis as always, man. Thanks for the time. Best of luck tonight and this week. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Nick Whalen, RotoWire, also Monday through Friday with Jeff Erickson on Prop Points at 1 o'clock Eastern right here on VSiN. By the way, Lendenborg, 12.5 points at FanDuel. Looks like 14.5 at DK. Nice little middle spot for you right there.
Well, they tried to get in front of this Michigan train late Saturday. All that Arizona money that showed late. Never had a chance. The other thing, too, with the Cavs, they do not want to see Boston while they want to get the 4. And particularly tonight, playoff teams against tanking teams, 31-1 straight up run. The loss was Toronto to Sacramento on Wednesday. That horrific loss by the Raptors.
That's the one loss, huh?
Yes, 31-1. And we'll get into what happened Friday. An all-time night in the NBA Friday. 20-point, 18-point spread. All the teams covered.
Yeah, that's coming up next. Pauly has the details from the weekend. Can you imagine this phone call with family and friends as well? It's Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Win Some, Lose Some is sponsored by the Sharp Plays.
Were
you a winner last night?
Wow, winning.
Or was it a rough one?
Well, they can't all be winners, can they?
Loser! You're a loser!
Pauly Howard recaps the night in sports betting in Win Some, Lose Some.
Final four props. UConn scores first in both halves, 3-1. UConn wins both halves, plus 450. Most points in the Illinois game, Wagler, plus 575. Michigan wins both halves, plus 275. And they score first in both, plus 275. How about the Crown? 3 overtime games. West Virginia, plus 140. UCLA women, plus 180. South Carolina Friday night, plus 240. Embarrassed UConn, and REM embarrassed themselves afterwards.
Well,
this antics.
And then they turned around and got equally embarrassed yesterday by the Bruins.
That? How bad was that basketball?
Oh, Friday night was all-time bad. I'm trying to think. I don't want to. I've watched women's basketball, at least a tournament, as long as I can remember. That's a throwback to like the 90s, early 2000s with some of those games, how bad it was.
Yes.
The Texas-UCLA game was as bad as I've ever seen.
Yes. Pittsburgh Penguins, 15-1-1 overrun for the game. And the first period business continues to cash as well.
Oh, we got a tied ball game, by the way, in Tampa Bay. Sorry to cut you off.
Too. And they don't play till Thursday. J.J. Spahn, 35-1 going in, 100-1 after round 2. He gets his third victory. 2 of them have been at the Texas Open. As he wins, it comes from behind in a great tournament. And I thought Bobby McIntyre was going to come back. Last week, Mike Malone was 10-1 to take the North Carolina job. He was named the coach today. And a bit of a surprise. Subscribe, be part of the team, VSiN.com. Our radio and podcast friends, you always want to see these tweets and videos. At Pauly Does Vegas on Instagram. Send them in, we'll put you on. Can you imagine this phone call to family and friends? On April Fool's, someone at Mandalay Bay hit megabucks for $10.5 million. A $5 bet. Can you imagine that? Hey, guess what I just did? And that'd take 45 minutes, unless you got pictures to show. How long that would take. And there it is. That is beautiful. But they remained anonymous. But on all days, one of the weirdest days of our career was Lon Kruger left UNLV to take the Oklahoma job. People were calling in for 45 minutes to say, cut it out, stop with the nonsense and the pranks.
Yeah.
And you couldn't convince them. It took like an hour until I think Humans came on or somebody to say, yeah, it's confirmed it's not an April Fool's, he's leaving. But imagine, hey, I just won $10 million. I shut up, cut it out. Quit wasting my time.
I'll never forget that. We were broadcasting live from Shadow Creek, which is one of the best golf courses in the entire country, for Michael Jordan's golf tournament on April Fool's Day. And the news breaks like pretty much was it right before our show?
Yes.
Lon Kruger was gone. And people wanted to come down and drive down and beat us up, like threaten us.
That
Knock it off, guys. It's not okay.
That also happened, yes. How about, was it Saturday night? What Adele did? Vicious beat.
Oh, this was what a performance
he
this
robbed
was.
3 home runs, and the Angels won 1-0. Now I don't know. Should it count if he goes over the fence?
I say yes.
Okay, I would say I would count the home run because he's bringing the ball and he's going over the fence. But in any event, what a performance by Adele to rob 3 home runs. And the big dumper was one of them, in disbelief as the Angels won 1-0, and that's an all-time photo as he's sitting there next to the fans.
That's
I got it. I got it.
First of all, if you bet any of those 3 Mariners to hit a home run and he robbed you, that hurts. Number 2, do we ever recall a player robbing 2 home runs in the same game, let alone 3? And then the Mariners on their whiteboard yesterday in their dugout put keys to victory. Do not hit the ball to Joe Adele.
Yes, that's great. I think Torrey Hunter did it once.
Twice in one game?
I could be wrong. Yeah. Lose some. NBA on Friday. 6 teams were laying 15 points or more. The Hornets won by 21. The Knicks won by 50. The Hawks won by 34. The Rockets and Celtics won by 32. So did the Raptors. And the Magic won by 11. Incredible night. And horrible for the books, too. That they all, forget about the money line parlay, they all covered. And it was a bloodbath.
I'll get a great tweet on this.
One lose some here. How does this keep happening? We'll show this to Derek Stevens tomorrow. A listener is at the Fort Lauderdale Airport bar, and he said no matter where he went, they had USFL on, or UFL, whatever it was, and no one had any idea where the remotes were, and they couldn't put the Final Four on. How do you not know where the remote control is? And you can't. Sorry, we can't change the TVs. We're stuck with it. And every bar he went to in the airport, he was stuck with the football game, and he couldn't watch the Final Four. Incredible.
It's probably a better story than I don't know how to change the TV with the remote or what station to go to.
That's also happened. Bad for the books. I hope you took advantage of it. It was ugly. 8 of the last 9 women's tournament games went under. And bad beat. Mariners on Saturday in Tulsa and the NIT title getting 5.5. You never want the dog in overtime. They lost by 6.
They were up by 3, by the way. Final 7 seconds left in regulation.
Baseball every day. NBA, NHL playoffs coming next week. Sharp Plays covers it all. They've been winning for 15 straight years. Documented and logs posted publicly. SharpPlays.com. When the Sharp Plays moves, the books take notice. Trusted insider intel. They find the value before the numbers ship. Respected, watched, and feared. This kind of transparency, rare in the industry. Start winning with them. SharpPlays.com. Mr. Poison tweets daily, and look for the Masters stuff as well.
All right, so I cut you off there. The Rays hit a 2-run shot in the bottom of the second to tie up the Cubbies at 2 apiece. Now the Cubs are absolutely unraveling defensively. They have made 2 pathetic plays here on the field in this inning, and the Rays have now taken a 3-2 lead. So there is that. Only day game today in Major League Baseball. To expand on those numbers from the NBA, Pauly, this tweet from Tim Reynolds. There have been 2 days in NBA history spanning 80 years where at least 9 games were played with an average margin of victory being at least 24 points. Only 2 such days in 80 years. One was Friday. The other one was last Sunday. Twice in the same week. Last 80 years where that has happened.
Crazy.
24.4 margin of victory in over 9 games on Friday. 24-point margin of victory on March 29th, which was this past Sunday, over 9 games as well. The next biggest average margin on a day of 9 or more games, April 2nd, 2021, 10 games, 21.7 with the margin. Wasn't great. But I just can't wait for the playoffs to get here.
Going to be fantastic.
And now it's completely unfortunate what has happened to the Lakers.
Well, I also question their staff and what they did. Both guys got hurt in the first half. You're down 30 at the half. They decided, let's try to fight. Maybe we can cut into this lead in the first 6 minutes. And they both made it worse. And now they're out, it's 3 to 6 weeks. I mean, it's just...
I can't believe they would do that against the Oklahoma... I know,
it doesn't make any sense.
What are you doing there?
Both tweaked the hammy and what happened, the oblique with Reeves, and they put him out there again in the third quarter, and they're getting blasted. And then they made it worse, and now they're out for the season. And I don't know, it's Luke. I don't know, maybe it's a miracle. They could hang in there against Houston. Durant could get hurt. You never know. But I still can't imagine that this is like a 4 to 6 week injury for Luka. That he thinks he could come back. Why? And then you're going to play him against the Thunder?
Yeah, big mistake.
Right.
There's no point to doing that. You're not winning anything this year. Don't rush him back. I think they could really hit a 2-leg parlay in the worst way imaginable. Playing him in the third quarter, thinking they can make a run, and then trying to expedite the entire process here to get him back on the court quicker than late. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I will say this, the silver lining potentially, as ugly as it's been in this sport now for a long time this season anyway with all the tanking teams, if Saturday is any indication of what the playoffs might be like, that Spurs-Nuggets game was one of the games of the entire year. Mm-hmm. That was just high-level NBA, as good as it gets basically between 2 teams that are loaded and have 2 of the best players ever basically on the court right now. Or their ceilings are that good anyway. You know what I'm saying? So There is that.
I'm surprised what transpired at Chapel Hill as well. North Carolina's hiring Malone. Donovan said, I won't talk to you until our season's over. Their season's over Sunday. The Bulls just fired their vice president and GM. Why would you want to stay in that situation?
Yeah, why does he want to retire going out like this? It is my understanding that with the portal opening up tomorrow, there was probably a deadline for Donovan today to make up his mind. And then he said earlier that he did not want to leave until, until the season's over with. They couldn't wait any longer. You had to make a move like right now because the portal is opening and you can't be without a head coach. So 10-1, I didn't see him listed anywhere.
Yeah.
But I also didn't look in the last couple of days either. But his daughter played volleyball there. I guess there's a connection. And, this is an entirely different sport now because you don't really have to be a great recruiter. All you have to do is put together a good GM, like a front office for your college team, and know which guys to bring in via the portal.
I thought it was a layup. Again, the people at Florida were concerned if he ever left NBA or North Carolina, and the people at OKC in Chicago when he was in the NBA were concerned he would ever leave. He'd take the Carolina job. And the one thing he hated at Florida was recruiting. Well, you didn't have to do that.
I know.
But he just, I'm going to wait till the season's over. No. It's a total rebuild.
But to me, it's on him then.
Absolutely.
This whole thing's on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take the job. It's all right. Total rebuild, and now they fired the GM and the VP today.
That guy was too good of a college coach to waste away in the NBA.
Yeah.
All right, we'll hit the Final Four coming up next. All of the numbers are historically great. I don't know if 15-0, 18-1, or 34-7 is more impressive when you factor everything into the equation. I'll break that down for you coming up here on VSiN.